Welcome to your Masterclass. My name is Kia Orion, the founder of Beat School, and I'm stoked that you're here. The problem with starting music production or music production resources in general is that there's so much information, it can be really difficult to know where to start, what's important and what's not. So that's what I'm going to do in this training is I'm going to break down for you the biggest mistakes that I see that beginners make. And I'm also going to give you some gems, some things to think about moving forward. I'm going to eliminate excuses because after helping thousands of producers, now I realize that there are certain crutches that we all use, excuses we all use that really hinder us. And it took me 10 years to learn some of these concepts, which I'm going to shorten down in less than an hour. So grab your beverage of choice, grab a notebook, pen and paper, and just to sweeten the deal a little bit, if you stick around till the end, I got something special for you. So I'm going to jump into my computer, we're going to run this training, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you. Stoked to teach you a thing or two. My goal with this masterclass is to teach you the 3 biggest mistakes that most producers make when they're starting out, what you can do instead to avoid these, and how to save years of trial and error that I wish I'd known when I first started. What you're going to learn in a nutshell are the best digital audio workstations to make your beats, what software and hardware you need to have to get started, how to make beats without knowing music theory, my most recommended resources, things I wish I'd had when I started, the essential plugins for producers, and the keys that most beginners miss when they're making beats. Who is this for? If you're someone who wants to save time learning music production, this could help. If you're curious what gear is needed to start making beats, if you've tried making beats before, but you struggle with the software, you started ideas, you weren't able to make anything happen, but you want to give it another shot, or if you need help with music production and you want an easy system to follow, this is the type of person that I think could get a lot from this workshop. You say, who is this guy with a beard who's trying to talk to me about music production? Well, I'll keep it short and simple. To the point, I'm a music production teacher. I taught high school students in both New York and Philadelphia. I ran music production workshops for people who are starting out in their music journey. I also am an audio hustler of sorts. I sell beats online now to rappers and singers. I've sold these in person, but now most of my market is online. I've also been commissioned for beats for commercials and branded content. And I make beats now also as an artist. As myself, I sing and write a little bit here and there. You can check those out online. I'm a coach, so I now coach folks online who are interested in music production and teach them a lot of these things I'm about to teach you. And last but not least, I'm a believer in all things habit and hard work related. All of my music production training has been DIY, meaning either from online courses I've taken or teaching myself. I've had no formal music production training, and I just really believe that you can do anything you set your mind to as long as you have the effort, you're willing to put the effort in, and you have a structured plan to follow and able to get there. That's me in a nutshell. But it wasn't always like this. I wasn't always selling beats. I wasn't always an audio hustler. I made every mistake in the book. I'm about 28 now. I started making beats when I was around 18, and it's taken me damn near a decade to get to the level that I am here. The point of this entire thing, when I was thinking about putting it together, what are some of the key takeaways that I could provide to y'all? This is really a letter to my younger self. These are things that I wish that I'd known when I was first starting out that could have saved me years of trial and error, just stupid mistakes, silly mistakes that I continually see in students popping up here and there. So I decided to package it all up in one masterclass for you here. Over my 10 years, working with students, also working with artists and with other producers, I've figured out why do some succeed. It's not about talent. It's not about money. It's not about gear, fancy studios. And it's not necessarily about time. And it's not about starting. Because everybody can start, right? Everybody sees Marshmello playing EDM shows, or they see Murda Beats, Just Blaze, Sunny Digital, Metro Boomin, these dope hip hop producers, and they say, oh yeah, I can do that, and hop on and realize it's not quite as easy as they think. So it's not about starting. If it's easy, everyone would do it, but it's how you finish. And if you've tried making beats before, if you've started some ideas, you get bogged down in the software, but you want to give it another shot, then this is for you. If you want to skip the bullshit and actually make music that matters to you, that you hear in your head and you know you could make, these are the 3 biggest mistakes that I see almost everyone make and what you should do instead. Let's get to it. Number 1, wasting time and money. This seems like a no-brainer, but let me elaborate. Choosing a DAW. This seems to give so many folks a problem. And as I promised in the beginning, I'm going to tell you what the best DAW is, and it's the best DAW for you. Now you say, that seems like a cop-out. Let me explain. Everyone is different. The problem that I see a lot of people make, and the big mistake that I made was if you're constantly switching. I started in Reason, and then for about a year, I switched to Logic. And after about a year, I switched to Machine. After about a year, I switched to Ableton. And the point is, now when I coach people, I say, try them all out. They have a trial for a few weeks. I'm not saying for months or years, but just try them out, test them out, because they all have different advantages, disadvantages, but it's more about feel. They all can do the same shit. Try them out and then choose one. When you choose one, stick to it. This is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout the presentation. It's not necessarily about having some sort of a best tool. It's about how you use it. That being said, especially if you're into hip hop and electronic music production, Ableton Live and FL Studio, I personally recommend because I found that they have the most resources available online. I think these have the biggest user bases. So there are a lot of forums, tutorials, online courses around these two things. So the resources available for you are just going to be more apparent, but don't let that by any means stop you from trying the others. That being said, try them, choose one, stick to it. Like I said, know your tools. What's the best DAW? What plugins are best? What gear is best? Et cetera, et cetera. The plugins that are best are the ones that you have. I'm going to say that again because it's important. What the best plugins are the ones that you already have, because those are the ones that you can use. Otherwise, another mistake I made, I see a lot of people making, you're about to start a beat, you have an idea going, and then you go down this rabbit hole of watching videos on different plugins. What are the best plugins? How do you use them? All that shit. And before you know it, you've been watching tutorials for an hour and your beat's never finished. The ones that are built into your program are also often going to take less CPU. So I use Ableton, and I notice when I use third-party plugins how much more CPU usage they have. They all do the same stuff. Some have a little more fun bells and whistles, but a lot of the best plugins are either the ones that you already have or they're going to be free. I use mostly free plugins, and no amount of fancy plugins can mask a shitty beat. So people go, what? But what about the gear though? Like I see you making beats, you gotta have some gear. Fuck that, man. None of it matters. I'm so serious. The key takeaway is I've heard all the excuses. Not the right plugins, not the right DAW, not the right this, that. But you wanna know something? I use mostly stock plugins. I don't produce with any gear. And I used to need 6 to 8 hours to make one beat. So for a little bit of context, mostly stock plugins, I still use mostly the ones that are built into Ableton because they're the ones that I know the best. So I can still achieve the same sound, plus free. Who doesn't like that? 2, because I travel often and I have an online-based business, I can't carry a lot of gear with me. So all of the beats that I make, all the music I make is done in the box, meaning it's just my computer and my mouse. Don't let that hold you back as an excuse that you think you need fancy gear to make beats. And while I used to need 6 to 8 hours to make one beat because it took me forever to chop a sample, I couldn't figure shit out. Now I bang most of the beats out in an hour, maybe 2. A solid 90 minutes, you can achieve some serious damage in that, but it takes time. 2, making it overly complicated. This is something that I see all the time. And again, the reason that I know these things is because I'm guilty of absolutely all of them. Maybe this is you. Keep it simple, stupid. KISS. If you haven't heard that, that's the abbreviation, but that is my biggest piece of advice. Keep it simple. You don't need to know everything about your DAW. I make bangers. People pay me a lot of money for my beats these days, and I don't know half the shit that Ableton can do. You know what? I'm going to take it back. I probably don't even know a quarter of what Ableton can do. The key is, though, I do know the essential things to get me where I need to go. After spending years fucking around with it, figuring it out, now I know exactly what I need to get me where I need to go. And if I want to step my game up or I want to do something fun, I'll take a tutorial, I'll learn about it. But for the longest time, I felt intimidated. I thought I had to know all the bells and whistles, all the features. Fuck that. Figure out, it's like learning a language. You don't need to know all the words to be able to communicate, but if you get the 100 most common words, you can hold a conversation with just about everybody because there's those 100 words you're going to use over and over and over again. Same thing goes with your DAW. Beginners, often when I'm coaching folks, they think they have to throw all this processing on these crazy effects, even on their vocal chain or on their beats. Take out most of the effects and get your EQ right. Learn how to mix the levels so that things feel glued together, and then you can go ham on the effects. I have online courses on mixing vocals and on mixing beats, and that's always my thing, is take it back to basics. Learn your fundamentals first. And what studio? I put that in because a lot of folks think that you need some sort of fancy studio to make in. You'd be surprised how many huge records there are on the radio that you hear that are made in the bedroom. Another one, poor sound choices. So when I was first starting out, I still love piano sounds, but I used to think I had to make one super sound. Like if you think about those big EDM records, a lot of times they have these huge saw synths and you think you have to layer a ton for those. And I think it really boils down to what type of production do you want to make? If you're doing EDM, then learning how to make those super sounds is important. But for most other production, what I've actually found is, as I've gotten older, as I've gotten better, as I've become a real master of the craft, is it's a subtractive process. When you're starting, you think you need to add a bunch of shit in there to fill up the beat. But now, what I recommend, what I teach, and what I do is use fewer sounds, but make those sounds really count. Speaking of sounds, you don't have to do everything. This is something that I wish were around when I was first starting out. And this is a company that I absolutely love. I do not make an affiliate commission off of this or anything. I don't make a beat without using splice sounds. You can get up and running so fast using splice. When I was first starting out, I feel like I'm a young man, but I'm still an OG in the producer game. I was downloading packs off of like LimeWire, and I was getting sound packs off of these crazy bootlegged like Pirate Bay torrents. You know what I mean? So it was like, and you get like 2 or 3 drum kits, half of them would be shitty. And so this has been a game changer for me that I cannot recommend enough. Even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing yet, speaking of starting with the right sounds, Splice will take you from 0 to 100 real quick. Keeping it simple. What are you doing learning about parallel compression before you've even learned about how to EQ some shit? This was me to the T, learning advanced concepts too soon. Your fundamentals are going to win every time. I'm not sure if you're into boxing, UFC. I'm a huge fight fan. And whenever it boils down to it, you look at people doing crazy acrobatic moves. You look at people that are super flashy. 99% of the time, the fighters that are going to win have good footwork. They've got the fundamentals down. It comes down to your jab and your cross, your hook, your 4 main tools, right? It's going to come down to your fundamentals. Yeah, you can flip around, try some spinning back fist shit, but how's your footwork? The fundamentals win. Same with the music. Don't focus on shit that you don't need to before you need to. I'd recommend learning part of your DAW, like an EQ chain or compression, something like that, more than trying to get super fancy with like side chaining different things or automation. There are so many different advanced concepts that I think we think look good, but the 80-20 rule, the reason I have that is because you know what? I put 80-20 rule because I figured some of y'all would know that, but I'm going to be honest. For me, it's more like 95. 95% of what I do is the basics. That gets me 95% of the way there. And then I throw on this kind of secret swag sauce that's the 5% extra that really kind of brings it to life. But to get me 95% of the way there, it's all basics. People ask me, Kia, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? I'm like, dude, this was a little thing that took me like 2 minutes to do, but 90% of my time is just getting down the basic part of the track, making sure that works. That's going to get you so much farther than any crazy plug-in advanced concept will. And last but not least, this is one I mentioned a little bit before, but I do firmly believe in it, and it's that there's no structure. You come into this, start flailing around, and before you know it, you're 6, 7, 8 years in, and you haven't made it very far. So this might look cool. You know, you see the people doing different fancy fun things, but the real key is, what are you focusing on? Watching tutorials on different disconnected ideas that could be probably my memoir for my production journey. I was watching different tutorials on just from different people, random videos, random ideas. There was no rhyme or reason to it. I thought New York compression looked cool, so I learned about that. I thought vocal mixing looked cool, so I learned about that. I learned about how to, have sidechain compression on my kicks because I heard that's what Jay Dilla did. So learning about that. Imagine you're trying to build some sort of a structure, house, apartment, whatever. You got to have that foundation down. You know what I mean? You got to build the basement. It makes sense to build one level at a time. I'm like trying to build the second story, and then I might build the kitchen, and then I'm trying to build the attic. And it's like, Kia, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, the key is, if you focus on the wrong things, you're going to end up wasting a lot of time and effort, because you aren't going to need those things or be able to implement or build on them until later down the line. Another one is, it's not about the information. It's about the application of it. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm a firm believer in hard work. And I do think it is about hard work. I also think it's about working smarter. But the true learning isn't about watching tutorials. The information is not about online courses. It's not about any of that. It's about actually taking what you learn and then applying it to practice. I've been reading a lot about this just because I'm interested in the psychology behind it. But that true learning happens, it's called deliberate practice. That you learn the concepts, you put them into practice, you can get feedback on them, and then make the proper adjustments and try it again. If you think about Chris Rock as a comedian, you see him now, it's, oh, he's huge, he's Chris Rock. But I remember hearing this interview with him, and he talked about when he would go out on the road and he would play 3 shows in the same night. And so he'd come out one, on that first show, tries a bit, sees how the audience reacts. And that's talking about immediate feedback as a comedian. That shit is pretty much ASAP. And tried the bit, saw how it worked, went back to the drawing board, tweaked it a little bit. Came out second show, same joke, tweaked it a little bit, see how the audience reacts. Okay, more of a laugh there, takes it back to the drawing board, tweaks it a little bit more, third show, et cetera, et cetera. You get what I'm saying? Getting that feedback would have been huge for me. And that's not sending it to your homies, sending it to your mom, but really getting legitimate feedback on what you're doing that's working and what you're doing that isn't, and making those small tweaks and adjustments necessary so that you can really start to elevate your game and you know what you should be working on. All right, guys, I'm back again really quickly. I just wanted to butt in to, first of all, make sure you're still with me. And second, this is a really important point. This is something that I think is often overlooked. And so I just wanted to come back, talk to you real quick in case you were spacing out, in case you had something going on, and let you know this is a really important point that I want you to listen to and digest, right? Don't just listen to it. Don't put this on in the background. If you have the presentation running on in the background, I get it. But here's something I think is especially important. Check it out. Huge element. I need a moment of silence for this one. When it comes down to production, there is an element of, I think also with artists, that we want to have high quality. We are, I think often, what does Drake say? I'm a perfectionist. I think that makes me a bit obsessive. I think as artists, it's a balance between insecurity and ego. And because of that, we all want people to like our shit. Like that's just how, you don't put stuff out hoping that people don't like it. You know what I mean? You always want that positive affirmation. You want that external validation. But as I've been coaching students, especially high school age students, because they are already in kind of a tumultuous time in their life. But even as they grow up, adults too, and I have you'd be surprised how insecure adults are too. So don't let it fool you. But I do tend to see this with the younger folks, is that they want it to be perfect. The real key when it comes to production, music production, I think in particular, any musical instrument, but I think this skill is one that this really applies to, is doing the work, actually just practicing. And we love to nerd out and watch tutorials, learn concepts, etc. But it's more about just making beats, making tons and tons of beats. If you can focus more on how many you make, you think of each one as a lotto ticket, and that they don't have to be perfect. Getting over that idea of perfection is a huge one. Another big piece is the reason why I see producers don't make it is because they give up too soon. They want the quick wins, and I think there are some ways to have quick wins, but they come into it with the wrong mindset. They approach it with fame, money, success as the end goal, rather than seeing this as a skill or a hobby. You have to change the focus from monetary gain to that of fulfillment. It's not easy, and it takes time, and it takes effort, but it's also incredibly rewarding, and it's incredibly fulfilling. And so if your focus can be on learning and practice and getting better, that makes it a lot easier of a journey to be patient on than if you're in it for the fame, money, more external validation. Because at first you're going to start picking things up. Boom, you're going to see progress ASAP. Boom, 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 boom. You start picking things up. It's going, you're moving, making beats. But no matter how old you are, actually, if you know the producer T-Minus, he's a hip hop producer. He made a lot of Drake's huge joints. Hell yeah, fucking right. He made I'm on one. He's made a ton of stuff. Blem. He'll be like, dude, I make like 4 ideas a day and 3 of them are shit. And I think knowing that and being able to internalize that in a way for yourself, that if you're starting out, knowing it's never going to be perfect, and just how to learn how to cope with this idea of imperfection, and that it's less about getting people to like your beats and more about you just enjoying the process of that. And if you can switch that focus, you're willing to really stick with it when it gets tough. There will always be times when you have beat block. There will always be times when you have plateaus, but if you stick with it, I guarantee you will break through them every single time. People also give up too soon because they are overwhelmed by the options and they simply don't create enough, which leads to my next point. Producer A works on 1 track for a month, tries to make everything perfect. Producer B makes 1 track a week and understands that his beats don't matter. And I say that jokingly, that his beats don't matter, but not really. Because producer B will make 4 times as many beats. And what I say about his beats not really mattering is that nobody gives a fuck. And that's facts. And the faster that you can understand that, the easier it is to start making beats. Because when you realize that nobody gives a fuck, I don't say that in a way to discourage you. I say that in a way to inspire you to realize if nobody cares, then what are you worrying so much about what people are going to think about your music? This has been one of the biggest unlocks for me. I used to spend so much time messing around with the frequencies and the transients and trying things to get perfect until I realized when I saw how people consume content, I saw people were listening to beats, they're listening to them off their phone speaker, or it's off of some little like radio speaker they have when they're in the shower in the bathroom. Like, people don't care. So stop caring so much what people think. Make the shit. Do your best with whatever you have at the time. Ship it. Get it out there. You'll learn so much more. Going back to this, you'll learn so much more from making more beats than you will having 1 beat that you try to craft and spend hours and hours on into perfection. Because inspiration is a funny thing. And I firmly believe that when it comes to this as well, the producer A versus B, that you get into the habit of creation. I produce a beat every day, almost every day, but for the most part, every day, almost no question. Inspiration isn't one of those things that you necessarily have to try to wrangle just when it hits you. You can sometimes create your way into inspiration. So maybe you start making 1 beat, you're not feeling inspired, not working, but something hits you for some reason, you get into the flow state, and then the second idea you make that day turns out to be fire. Or if you just get into the habit, by the end of the year, that's 365 beats at least that you have. And so if you can create that habit, realize that 1, nobody gives a fuck, so just finish the thing. But the more that you make, the more often you are going to stumble onto the inspiration. So this is just something I firmly believe in. It's something I teach. This is what I coach. This is also advice for myself too, to say, Kia, since nobody cares, stop overthinking about it. Just make the thing. Get into the habit of the flow state. And that fulfillment is really where it matters anyways. So a couple key takeaways from this is 1, it's never finished. You're never going to have a beat where you go back and it seems perfect, that you can't tweak more, mix the levels differently. I think that's the beauty, is that art is subjective. So it's never finished. Just ship the damn thing. People don't care. They aren't going to listen. They're going to listen to it on their phone speakers anyways. Stop tweaking the snare sound. I wrote that in. That's advice to self as well. Like, fuck around, get it as good as you can, but ship it. Another one, huge one, keep it simple. Stop trying to learn these crazy advanced techniques when you don't need them. Gear and plugins aren't everything. The best plugins you have are what? You got it, the ones that you already have. Know your tools and how to use them. You can get really far with the free shit. That just like the techniques, spend money on the advanced gear, the fancy plugins when you need them. You don't need them when you're starting out. Try out different DAWs and then pick one and stick to it. That comes back to know your tools. Be patient. Be patient. You're learning a skill. understand that it takes time and it takes effort, but it's the most rewarding skill that I've ever learned. And I mean that. It's not going to be easy. That's not what the point of this presentation is, that it's not easy, but that if you're willing to give it what it deserves, it's going to be worth it. And while it might not be easy, there are ways to make it easier. Last but not least, this is an effort thing. It's not a talent thing. This is not something people were born with. I am probably one of the least talented people you will ever meet, but people tend to like my beats. Take a listen for yourself. Tell me what you think. And that is all from effort. That's from me being determined as fuck and stubborn enough that I didn't give up and just wanted to stick with it. And that's what I teach people. Nobody has anything over you in this. Some people might, they might have more natural inclinations than you, but believe me, I do not. That if you want to do this, it is entirely up to you. Entirely. There's not 1% of this that is up to anybody else. If you want to learn how to make beats, if you want to take those ideas that are in your head, bring them to life. If you want to build a skill that is something that is both rewarding as a pastime, but you could also possibly monetize, it's up to you. You say, Kia, that sounds great. All right. I know it's up to me, but still seems like a lot of work, and it still seems to be kicking my ass a bit. And I know it's going to take some effort, but maybe there's something I can do that's a little bit different. All right, y'all. So I'm going to be honest with you. That was the main piece of the training in a nutshell. And you made it this far, so you already a real one. Because you did make it this far, and I'm a man of my word, I'm going to give you a special offer. And that is about our Beat Bootcamp. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our program. This is kind of our foundational program at Beat School. And because you did watch the whole thing, the whole training, I'm going to give you a discount on it. But here's the deal. A lot of times people get the training or they get the information, but they don't do anything with it. And that's the whole point of this program, is that it's not about the information. It's about taking action on it. It's not about thinking. It's not about watching more tutorials. It's about actually getting hands-on in the DAW, having accountability, and doing the work. That's what this whole thing is about. It's about reps and getting in there and actually staying busy. And in terms of the program, I'm the straight shooter. So this isn't a program about course videos and an online course, me trying to pitch you a course. This is about producers that have the information, or you might feel like you need a little bit more direction and accountability and feedback. If you want to actually know if you're making the right decisions, if you want to know if your beats are any good, if you want to know if you're actually implementing things correctly, this is what the program is all about. So give me a couple more minutes. I'm going to tell you about the program, and then I'm going to give you the special offer. Introducing the Beat Bootcamp. This was a couple years ago at this point. I put this together. I said, okay, if I wanted to create something that was a real roadmap for producers, what would that look like? How could I break this down? How much time would it actually take for me to teach the things that I think are most important? And the first version of the Beat Bootcamp was born. Now, years later, people are having success with it. And these are a couple testimonials from people about that. They say, love the no bullshit style. He will give it to you straight, and that tough love is sometimes what you need to hear to improve. Kuntal says, excellent info from a passionate and skilled teacher. Cody says, good teacher was clear and easy to work along too. I like how quickly Kia managed to break down complex concepts without bogging you down with lots of unnecessary technical information. So these are guys that have gone through the boot camp, had success, some students that I continue to work with even after they finish. But when it comes to boot camp, I decided to make it 4 beats in 4 weeks. I said I can condense all of this into a 30-day program. So after 30 days, you kind of start out, but then we jump into a sprint. There's an intake period where we kind of work on your goals, work on the mindset, see kind of where your head is at, and then we dive in. It's 30 days. It's a sprint. I felt like 60 days, 90 days is almost too much because people can commit to 30, right? You say, in a month, I can do this, lock in every day. 2 months, yes, there's a lot to still learn even after 1 month, but it's hard to commit to that. So I think 30 days is something where you can really lock in for a creative sprint and get a lot of the important concepts and the foundation built in that 30 days. And so what Bootcamp is it's built on the ideas that I've found that I'm going to talk to you about here in a second that really go into what make a good program. This is also what I talked to you about in the trainings before, that it's sequential, meaning the lessons build on top of each other. This isn't random bits and pieces that you try to join together like when you watch YouTube tutorials. This is a step-by-step, proven, sequenced process for you. So the model is from online courses I've taken before, from my own experience of 10 years doing this, and then also from Seth Godin, who's one of my favorite, I'd say, gurus out there. He's a writer, he's a blogger, he's a tech guy, he's a marketer. And my program is based off of his program. He runs this thing called the Alt MBA because he had all this data around online courses and their efficacy, meaning if they worked or didn't. And it looked like they didn't because there were always pieces missing that people wanted. And because so much it was focused on watching, people weren't getting the results. And so instead, what he switched was his model is focused on doing. And that's what Beat Bootcamp is it's a 30-day intensive workshop where we build 4 songs from scratch. So yes, there are video components to it, but it's not just watching. It's not a video course. It's a bootcamp for real. It's an online program. It's a workshop more than it is simply watching video tutorials. So every week we start with a track, an idea of a track, and by the end of the week, you're expected to have that track done, a rough version of that track, which you send to me or one of your producer coaches, who will then give you feedback on that track. So we start with boom bap, move to lo-fi, trap, and then the last week is kind of your original project where you set the intention of what you want to do and you build out your own original track. Like I said, though, this is a workshop. It's not an online course. So there are videos, yes, but there are also exercises. This means that we're going to do some work on your inner game. These are going to be exercises that force you to think, force you to dig deep into motivation, into inspiration. This is also going to be based on course projects, meaning there are real deliverables. At the end of every week, you're expected to ship a project. So this doesn't mean that you can spend weeks and weeks tweaking the snares and the transients. This means every week you double down, you get hands-on, you actually make something. And then at the end of every week, you get feedback on that track, which then you can implement into your track the following week. So we start with boom bap because it's hip hop. I know people love boom bap. It's also one that I think you can get a lot of results quickly, and it doesn't have to be super complicated. So we do a little bit of sampling basics, some mixing, and some audio manipulation to kind of get things started with a boom bap track. I'll give you all of the stems so you can follow along with me, but I'll also give you these sample packs so you can make your own boom bap beats that are different than the ones that I make in the video tutorials. The second week is lo-fi. Lo-fi, I started putting out free materials and I realized people loved lo-fi, but they were really struggling with certain things. One of them being the drum programming, because lo-fi, it's built off of kind of like Fly Low, J Dilla vibes. So there's a lot of swing. It means the drums are not quantized. It means things are off the grid a little bit. So it has a boom bap vibe because yes, it's still sample based and it's loop based in a way, but the drums are a little bit more difficult. So I think they're a step up from boom bap drums. I also think the arrangement in lo-fi can be a little bit more difficult. And then the mixing and effects, because lo-fi has a very specific vibe that I think there are certain effects that I found I can teach the best through lo-fi, but they're sometimes a little bit more complicated than just your average mixing basics. So we do some intermediate mixing and effects in week 2. Week 3, we jump into trap, which is obviously one of the biggest genres right now. And we're going to learn sound design. We're going to learn automation and idea generation. Automation is really important because it makes your tracks dynamic. This means they actually kind of live and breathe throughout the 3 minutes, 2 minutes that you actually can control these small kind of minute things, whether that's panning, whether that's an automation for a filter or for a phaser, just effect, no matter what it is, you can really make your tracks dynamic and bring them to life in automation, but it's a little bit more specific. So we wait until the 3rd week. Once you kind of have your base to build out these things like sound design, automation that are just slightly bit more complicated than they would be on the 1st week. And then last but not least, 4th week, your original track. Think of this as your final thesis. You're going to send a small write-up or video or audio, whatever works for you, to your producer coach or me and say, hey, this is my vision. You're going to talk about the vision for that track that you want. You're going to make the track and then you're going to submit it. And then we're going to give you feedback on how close we think you actually achieved that vision that you set out to execute. We're also going to give you constructive feedback on that last track and give you a custom action plan moving forward. So after these 30 days, you know where to head to next. But what makes this a workshop, not an online course? It's the feedback. Who is this for? Who is it not for? You have to come in and be open-minded to feedback. You can't come in, think that you hot shit, think you're going to just knock it out of the park every single week. It's called boot camp for a reason. There's coaching involved. So in order for this to happen, you have to be open to feedback. You have to allow someone to hear your work. This can't be done in a silo. The only way to improve, I'm going to talk about here soon, is in deliberate practice, which is based off the research that I've found. I'm super into personal development, habit building. One-on-one coaching in deliberate practice is really important because you don't know where to go. You don't know what's working for you. You don't know what's not working for you, kind of where your weaknesses are, and that someone with experience who knows what they're doing can give you that direction. So it's called bootcamp for a reason. There are real deliverables that were expected. It's accountability too, right? You're expected to finish these things every single week, submit these, get feedback, implement it, and then move on to the next week. We hold your, we hold your ass to the fire with this, but I think that that's super important when it comes to actually executing, is knowing that someone is depending on you, knowing what someone is expecting you to finish something. That's half the battle. So like I said, this is built on deliberate feedback. Deliberate practice. And deliberate practice comes into effective feedback to make results. So what does this look like? In terms of deliberate practice, this means instruction, goals, trackable progress, and feedback. This means that your instruction can be differentiated. This means it's custom. This is specific to you. Your goals are intense. They're focused. We have very clear deadlines. We have very clear things that we're working on week to week. We can track the progress, meaning every single week we see improvements. We're seeing if you're implementing the feedback or not. And then also getting that feedback, seeing what your strengths are, but also seeing where you're possibly coming up short. In terms of the feedback that you get from me or one of the producer coaches, this again means it's specific, it's unique to you. It's timely. So there will be every single week after you submit it. I'm not going to wait super long before we get to your feedback. Your feedback comes almost immediately. It'll be within a day or two. We say within 24, 48 hours. So you can implement it for the next week. It's understandable, meaning it's clear. This isn't going to be very general, like, oh, I like it or I don't. We're talking about your snares. We're talking about the EQ in the mix. We're talking about how you used effects. It's very specific. It's very unique to you. It's non-threatening. So yes, it is criticism, but it's constructive. We aren't going to shit on you. And then it's revisable, meaning you can actually implement it and take action with it after we give it to you. So this is kind of how it works in a nutshell. It's 4 weeks. Each week, you kind of start at the very beginning. There's kind of a startup phase where we have an intake form. So you can tell us what you're working on, what you're kind of looking to learn throughout these 4 weeks in particular. So we kind of know we can cater our feedback to you. And then week 2, week 3, and week 4, you're then going to take that feedback from the track, implement it into the next week, and hopefully continue to improve until the final project. Your time is money, baby. We know that. And that's the whole point of this, is to save you time. You say, Keel, what's the point of boot camp? To save you time. Because this is something that took me years to learn, and I found so much success with my students. But really what you're paying for here is saving yourself time. So it's a little bit of inner game, a little bit of outer game. Inner game isn't super sexy, but you got to get your mind right to actually get the skills to do the work. Comes down to 3 P's: perspective, patience, and persistence. Talk about these a little bit more, but we got to get your mind right first, perspective. Make sure you got to do the work. That's patience. And then third is continuing to follow up and do this day in and day out for the 30 days, which is the persistence part. So let's think about this for a second. If you were able to make beats in 4 weeks, would it be worth it? If you could think about sitting down at your computer, have an idea in your head of what you want to do and actually be able to execute on it, for real, what would that be worth to you? Imagine sitting down, not getting bogged down in the software, not having to look at tutorials, not getting stuck in an 8-bar loop, not sure what instrument to add next, et cetera, et cetera. I've been there. We've all been there. If you start production, you know that feeling I'm talking about. What if you could have a way that you sat down, you're able to execute on your vision and skip all of that bullshit? So there's the traditional route of online music production schools. Shout out Dubspot one time. I took this from their payment page. $3,000 for their video course, their online course. It's their Ableton Live program. Nothing like it, eh? $3,000. Simple, $1,000 every single month. Or you can jump into the Beat Bootcamp. I'm a little biased, but what I believe is the best way to learn hip hop production online out there. What are you getting? We have two different options. The standard program. So it's the full video course, lifetime access to Beat Bootcamp, $500 value. Completed course project files to follow along step by step. These are also called stems. These are what you would drag into your project. These are stems for a beat. So that way you have every single instrument. You can tweak the knobs and switches. These are so you can actually get your hands dirty. At the same time, if you don't want to make the same beats I'm making, I understand. We also have those Creative Fire sample packs I was telling you about, which every single week you'll get a new one. It'll have, think of this as a toolkit that you'll be able to use. And for 4 of those sample packs, $100 value. You get private community. This is where I'm in there, my producer coach is in there, other students are in there, $100 value, and then free updates for life. That's the standard program. Or how the program is supposed to be done with the complete coaching. All the things in the standard programs, but you also get unlimited hands-on email support. This means at any time, if you're struggling with the program, you don't know what's going on, you're not sure exactly what you should be doing, you email your coach, you're going to get a response. This also comes with the in-depth video feedback on your tracks every single week. This means it's going to be an in-depth video giving you a critique, very hands-on, kind of letting you know what it is that you're doing good, you know, where your strengths are, but also letting you know what you could work on for the next week. However, I love listening to my students. I'm actually hungry for feedback all the time. I'm still learning and I'm trying to say, what can I do to make this better? So I pulled my students and I asked them, guys, glad you're digging the Beat Bootcamp. What is missing? What can I do to really make this the ultimate online learning experience? And people always came back with the same things. They wanted to know more about sound design. They wanted to know about arrangement, music theory, more on mixing. And then people were making beats because they also wanted to rap or sing on them. So they wanted ideas on how to mix vocals. So these are all courses that I've done kind of mini snippets on before, but I really dove in and made some master classes and extra modules for you guys for this bootcamp. I'm also, at the time of this recording, working with a few really dope mixing engineers to get them to shoot extra modules for you guys, especially on mixing vocals and on mixing beats, because mixing is super important. And I have some homies that have produced for some big artists, and I want to bring them in as some heavy hitters. So those will be coming soon. So I had 2 options. I said I could either try to get this to as many people as possible for cheap, or we could do something a little bit higher end. And I said, I already have so much free material out there. What people really want is a premium product. I said, I want to give people something that doesn't exist yet. There's a lot of free material out there. I said, I want to build the ultimate hip hop production roadmap. I want to build the ultimate system for hip hop production, but I want it to be at a premium. So that way people who take it I know are actually serious about it. And they're people that really want results. These aren't people that are just going to I want people that are like serious. They really want to level up. They are people that are dedicated. They self-select as people that say, yes, this is something I want to learn. I'm willing to invest in it. I'm willing to invest the time. I'm willing to invest the money. I'm willing to invest in myself because this is something that I believe in. So again, we have the standard and the complete coaching. And so what I've done now is taken the complete coaching and added all these bonus modules to it. So yes, you get the feedback, you get the email support, but then we also have the Mixing Foundations Masterclass. You get the sound design module, arrangement, mixing vocals in Ableton, music theory crash course, and when it's ready, after you buy this, you'll also get the mixing module from the engineers that I've hired to shoot these extra modules for you guys because you get free updates for life. So once you buy the bootcamp, any additional things that we add, because we're going to continue to improve it, continue to add on fun different modules and just different exciting things as I get to know more music producers. I'm going to have people do other production tutorials and different DAWs and things of that nature. You'll get free updates for life. So those aren't things that you're going to have to buy extra. As we add and upgrade this as we go, you get them for free. But a lot of people say, Kia, I don't have time for the 1-month workshop. 30 days is a long time. Listen, I get it. Totally makes sense. That's what we have the standard one for, the standard package. If you want to do this at your own pace, you don't want someone there kicking your ass, or you don't want to have to do the deliverables, if that seems intimidating, I understand. So the package without the coaching, without all the bonuses, with all the goodies, if you just want to crush the learning curve, get the goods and do it at your own pace, that is the program for you. I understand everyone has their own routines. Some people can't commit to 30 days. Some people just want to knock it out over the weekends. Entiendo todo. That's Spanish for pretty much I get it. I understand. That's what that package is there for. But for those that do want to level up, that's what we have the complete coaching program for. And a lot of people might think that that sounds intimidating. So another thing people say is, Kia, I don't know if I can do it. They say, what if I get in the course and it's too much? What if I sign up for the 30 days and 2 weeks in, there's an emergency and I can't finish the course, but I've already paid for it? Listen, I understand it. Life happens. First of all, if you're at any point in the program, if you want to pause it and come back to it, that's totally an option. But more than that, what we have is a blank screen. No, we have a 100% money back guarantee. This is actually more of a satisfaction guarantee because that's how much I believe in the program. So what this is, there's no time limit to it. 60 days, 90 days, lifetime. If you're not happy with the program, you let us know. You let me know. My customer support team will refund you your money ASAP. No hassle. You don't have to prove that you've tried the course or not. You just let us know. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Listen, this isn't for everybody. We know that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This isn't a magic bullet. You still have to do the work. You have to go to the gym. You are the one who has to do the push-ups. We can't do the work for you. And so I want to make that clear. People think this is going to be easy. It's not. This is serious. Music production, imagine learning an instrument, right? It's hard and it takes time, but it doesn't have to take you 10 years like it took me. I made the mistakes so you don't have to. That's my tagline. Let me do all the trial and error, figure out what works, what doesn't, waste 10 years of my life so that you don't have to. So that's what this is. Money back 100%, no timeline. If after a month you buy the course, after 2 months you buy the course, you finally get to it, realize it's not for you, you let us know, you get your money back. So you might as well try it. You got nothing to lose. Seriously. You dive in, try it, don't like it, money back, nothing to lose. If you're at least interested, give it a shot. Before we get you out of here, I'm leaving you with these last few gems. Whether you decide to do the boot camp, whether you go off on your own adventure, I want you to know that this is going to take time. This is 30 days can get you serious foundation, but you aren't going to be Dr. Dre after 30 days. Those 30 days are going to give you a solid foundation to then build on. So that way you know exactly what you should be focusing on and we can really expedite your process, your learning. But whether you do this, whether you do it on your own, understand that it's not going to happen overnight. Nothing good happens just from, I wanted to say nothing good happens overnight, although some good things can happen overnight, but we'll say it like this, building good skills doesn't happen overnight. This is something, if you've learned any skill before, you realize it takes time. 2, focus on progress, not external results. That's why with our producer coaching part of it, we aren't, we're focusing on things within the internal locus of control, meaning these are things you can control. You can't control how many people are listening to your songs. You can't control how poppin' your YouTube channel is. You can't control whether people think you're great or not, but you can control where you level up in your production. You can look at where you're getting better. Focus on progress. Step by step, you build on each level, especially with a program like this, and you'll start to see those results, but you can't focus on just the results. You have to focus on the progress. Understand your learning, understand it takes time. And if you can have a program like this that's built on top of each other, after 30 days, you'll be able to go back and see the huge improvements you've made, even after just 1 month, if you're focusing on the right things. And last but not least, you focus on what's important. This means you get your foundation down first. You don't get super fancy with the plugins. You don't try to dive into stuff and experiment too early. Focus on your foundations, build those, make sure those are strong. It'll set you up for success for the rest of your production journey. So I'm not going to use fancy marketing tactics like I've told you already before to try to kick your ass a little bit and to sweeten the deal. We are discounting this seriously on either package. There's going to be a serious discount. So if you want that, if you buy the program now, you get the discount. If you wait, discounts off the table. But that's because rather than doing some shisty stuff with psychology and marketing, I just said, what can I do to actually kick your ass to get you to take action? Like if it's something you know you want to do, I said, how can we eliminate risk? One is a satisfaction guarantee, meaning if you aren't happy, you get your money back, period. You ain't got to prove shit. You ain't got to send us screenshots, none of that. You try it, not for you, get your money back. But more than that, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time is now. You could wait forever, but to really get you to pull the trigger, I wanted to knock off some of the price. And you can find all the prices below, the packages below with the discount. If you buy it now, you'll be able to get the discount, but that won't last forever. Last but not least, so you know it works. One last testimonial before we get you out of here. It's from my boy, Evan. A student reached out to me, and I get these DMs a lot. He said, yo, Key, I just want to say thank you. Your teaching style ability, cut through all the bullshit, really fit my style. Helped me break down some walls that were keeping me from getting out of my own way, following through with my ideas to let them flow. I've watched so many misguiding tutorials on things, just need to see how to sew it all together. So thank you. All the time, people send me DMs. Hey, Kia, appreciate what you've done for me with the beats, your no bullshit style. I'm not for everybody. I understand that. I'm going to kick your ass. The producer coaches are going to kick your ass, but we're going to have fun at the same time. You get the video course plus lifetime access, free updates, the sample packs, community, hands-on email support. How nice is that? Throw any time you can fire off an email and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, this, and that. We're going to get back to you. In-depth feedback on your tracks. Help you get where you want to go. Know what your weaknesses are. Know what your strengths are. You can't read the ingredients from inside the bottle. My business coach told me that. That was huge for me. You can't read the ingredients from inside the bottle. The only way to get better is from perspective. You can really shortcut your progress if there are people that know what they're doing that can help you out. Beat Bootcamp program. Stoked to help you level up. Excited to see you crush the learning curve. And I'll see you on the inside. So that's the program in a nutshell. And if you're interested in it, but you think it's too expensive or it's not the right time or whatever excuse that you have, whatever limiting beliefs you have, I get it. Trust me, I've been there. As someone who's taken my fair share of online courses, I've had all the exact same doubts that you have. And because of that, I'm going to sweeten the deal a little bit. I'm going to give you a 30% off discount off any of the programs. If you just want to take the program with the course videos, that's kosher. You get all the bonuses. I get it. Make the decision, and you've got a week to act on it. If you don't, I'm taking the 30% discount, and you're going to have to do it on your own. Full price, obviously, it'll still be available for you. But this discount, I'm going to make it limited time to kick your ass a little bit, show you that this is the time. There never is a right time. You just got to jump. You take the leap, you build the plane while you're flying it. It's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in life. So here's a 30% discount. Click that button below. You got a week. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll have all the information below. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you got. Thanks again for tuning in. If you made it this far, for real, if you made it through the whole thing, I appreciate you. I hope you got some gems. Let me know what you think. Peace.